Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are fortunate to have with us today witnesses who know as well as anyone what has gone so wrong in my state, what has gone so wrong in the Golden State. They will share with us the titanic policy blunders and staggering failures of political leadership that have caused such harm to California and for which our citizens have paid such a high price. I believe that today's hearing can be a moment where we turn the tide and restore some sanity to California fire and water policy while issuing a warning to the rest of the country about the devastating consequences of these failed policies. As President Trump said, there can be no golden age without the Golden State. Thank you very much. And in response to the gentlewoman from Vermont, I think the issue here is that, for example, there was one firefighter turned whistleblower who said that LA will only purchase from vendors that support DEI, resulting in the fire department having to go with a vendor that will have to pay twice as much, or the shipment may take twice as long because of that requirement. And so I think the point is that a public safety organization should be singularly focused on public safety, and this is not the place for ideology or social engineering. But Mr. Hilton, one of the things that was appalling to many of us in the middle of the fires was that our governor, Gavin Newsom, set up a political website that was devoted to promoting himself and defending his record and trying to deflect blame, and a rapid response organization designed to attack people and call any criticism of his record misinformation. So I do think it's important to set the record straight. This is a story from Capital Public Radio from a few years ago. Now, is Cap Radio, is that the local Fox News affiliate or something, Mr.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's the NPR affiliate.
It's NPR.
Right? Not known to be a right-leaning conservative outlet. Here's the headline. Newsom misled the public about wildfire prevention efforts ahead of the worst fire season on record. An investigation from Cap Radio and NPR's California newsroom found the governor has misrepresented his accomplishments and even disinvested in wildfire prevention. The investigation found Newsom overstated by an astounding 690% the number of acres treated with fuel breaks and prescribed burns in the very forestry projects he said needed to be prioritized to protect the state's most vulnerable communities. So if it's true that fuel management and fuel reduction projects are so unimportant, as we're hearing from the other side today, then why did the governor feel the need to lie about it? I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Thank you very much. One of the problems with making climate change the sole focus of these discussions is that it leads to a sense of fatalism, like there's nothing we can do, or it leads to measures that are absurdly misaligned to the nature of the problem. So, for example, in 2020, in the midst of the worst fire season of California history, just unimaginable suffering, the governor, Gavin Newsom, came up with a grand solution, which was to ban gas-powered cars. This is actually what he did. His reasoning was, look, the cars cause emissions, which cause climate change, which cause the fires, therefore we just need to ban the cars, and in fact, followed up with a ban on trucks, on trains, even on lawnmowers and leaf blowers. So, Mr. Ring, in your opinion, what is the more effective strategy when it comes to fire prevention? Is it banning cars and leaf blowers, or is it reducing fuel through things like prescribed burns and strategic tree removal?
Well, the answer to me is obvious. You're not going to have any sort of short-term impact, certainly, or even long-term impact if the rest of the world doesn't do the same thing with respect to whatever the theories may hold with respect to greenhouse gas and climate change. But what you can do is bring back logging, bring back grazing, and also mechanical thinning, which would be effective in the chaparral and on the steep hillsides. You can do mechanical thinning and you can do grazing. There's equipment that can do that nowadays, and of course grazing, they've been able to do that for millennia. So bringing back logging, thinning, grazing, and prescribed burns is the solution, and a lot of that can be done commercially, which would actually generate tax revenue and good jobs instead of costing hundreds of billions of dollars.
And by the way, which is more effective at reducing or limiting emissions? Those sort of fire prevention measures or banning certain consumer goods?
Well, I think banning consumer goods has almost no impact on emissions compared to being able to properly manage our forests and wildlands.
And in fact, wasn't there a study showing, and Mr. Greenhut, I think you can speak to this, that in the 2020 fires, the emissions that were let out there was twice as much as any savings California had for, what was it, the previous
16 years. So we're undermining any gains we're making in every wildfire.
That's right. I'll just close by pointing to an example that was brought up earlier. My district was hit by one of the most devastating fires in state history, where hundreds of people lost their homes in Grizzly Flats. And that fire might not have happened or been as severe as it had been if it had not been for delays through CEQA and NEPA with a forest management project that had dragged on for years and years and years. On the other hand, the fire was limited from going into South Tahoe because of the categorical exclusion that Mr. McClintock spoke of in the Christmas Valley. So you had the fire that might not have started if we'd done our job properly, but because we had this narrow form of relief, at least we were able to stop it from spreading even further. I think that is the recipe for how we can reform these policies and restore some common sense going forward. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. That